Modern TVs have a secret problem. They look incredible. Thinner, sleeker, 4K perfect, but they sound awful. Manufacturers are cramming tiny speakers into paper-thin screens, firing audio backward into your wall. The result? You're cranking the volume to 75 just to hear the dialogue. Then diving for the remote the second an explosion happens so you don't wake the kids. I'm Matt, I'm a film professional, but more importantly, I'm a dad of 3 boys. My house is loud, chaotic, and very normal. I've been living with the Sonos Beam for 6 years. Not testing it for a weekend, but actually surviving with it. 2 units, 6 years, 3 kids. I'm not an audiophile, I don't want a receiver, I don't want a second remote, and I don't want a project. I just want to hear what people are saying on TV. So today I'm breaking down the big 3 for busy parents: setup, design, and sound, and answering the only question that matters. After 6 years of real abuse, is this thing still worth your money? The Sonos Beam is a compact soundbar designed to replace the speakers built into your TV. Sonos positions it as an all-in-one speaker that handles TV audio and also works for everyday listening. Its role is straightforward. Everything your TV would normally play through its internal speakers instead comes from the Beam. Shows, movies, games, sports, all routed through a single speaker that sits outside the screen and faces the room. It can also be used for music, podcasts, and other audio when the TV's off. Most of the Beam's functionality lives in the Sonos app. That's where you adjust settings, manage features like speech enhancement or night sound, group it with other speakers, and control how it behaves day to day. On the speaker itself, there are simple touch controls on top for play and pause and volume up and down. Around those controls are small pattern of openings, part of how the speaker listens for voice commands and manages sound. But day to day, you don't really think about them. Around the back, it connects to your TV using HDMI ARC with an optical adapter available for older TVs. Sonos as a company has been around since the early 2000s and has focused almost entirely on home audio. Their products are designed to work together over a home network with the idea that speakers should fit into a house and stay useful even as rooms, setups, and needs change over time. This is the lens I'm using to think about the Sonos Beam in our house. For this product, it comes down to setup, design, and sound. Setup matters because anything that's frustrating on day one usually stays frustrating. Setting up the Beam is simple. You plug it in, connect a single HDMI cable to the TV, open the app, and follow along. There's no receiver, no extra boxes, no input juggling. It feels like setting up a straightforward audio device and then moving on with your life. What matters more is what happens after that. You turn the TV on, the sound is there. You grab the same remote you've always used and the volume works the way you expect. Nobody in the house has to learn how it works. There's no explanation, no coaching, no don't touch that conversation. It behaves the way people expect the TV to behave, and that ends up mattering a lot. Design is very important for something that sits out in the open in our house. The Beam is compact and low profile. It doesn't block the screen, it doesn't take over furniture, and it's easy to place whether it's on a dresser, a desk, a mantle, or a media console. In our office, the white Beam just sits low under the screen, just under 3 inches tall and 26 inches wide. It never crowds the space or competes with anything around it. In our bedroom, the black version works just as naturally on a darker dresser. In both cases, it feels like it belongs there. The design doesn't call attention to itself, which is probably why it still feels right years later. The upgrade here isn't just about volume. It's about clarity and control at the levels you actually use. The biggest improvement over TV speakers is dialogue. Voices are easier to understand without constantly riding the volume, and they stay consistent from scene to scene. The Beam can still get loud when you want it to, especially with music, and it has no problem filling a space. But what surprised me more is how balanced it sounds at low and mid volumes. In bedrooms especially, sound still feels full when it's quiet. Dialogue stays present and louder moments don't jump out in a way that feels jarring. We use the Beams for music just as much as we use them for TV sound, streaming through the Sonos app or sending audio over AirPlay. And they behave like regular speakers, which means they actually get used all the time. We didn't start with the Beam. Years ago, we started with a single Sonos speaker and only added pieces one at a time. Between the two Beams we've owned, one of them has been connected to just about every TV in our house at some point. Not because anything went wrong, but because rooms changed and priorities shifted. That flexibility has mattered more than I expected. One Beam moved from the main living space into our office, and before that, it even spent about a year out on the covered patio. Protected, but not babied. Each time it moved, it fit naturally into the next space without needing to be rethought. It doesn't feel fragile or precious. It feels solid, and it's built for real use, like something meant to live in a house where rooms change, nothing stays perfectly static, and things get thrown around. We love an upgradable system, not because we want to keep buying things, but because it lets us grow into it only if and when it actually makes sense. You can add surround sound speakers or a subwoofer later if you want, but it feels pretty complete on its own. At this point, we're not thinking about replacing ours. They're still doing exactly what we need them to do in the spaces that they're in. The Sonos Beam is now on its second generation. The ones we've got are OGs. The second gen Beam came out in 2021, and it keeps the same size and role, but adds support for things like Dolby Atmos and a newer HDMI standards for modern TVs. Day to day, the overall experience is the same. Because of that, refurbished first generation Beams are still easy to find at lower prices, which can be a practical option for some households. You can even still buy them directly from Sonos. There are trade-offs that come with keeping things this simple. The Beam doesn't offer extra physical inputs, and most controls run through the app. On its own, it is not meant to replace a full surround sound system. It's a major upgrade over TV speakers, not a one-box home theater. The best thing about the Sonos Beam isn't obvious at first. It's the kind of product you don't have to manage. You don't explain it to your spouse. You don't coach your kids on how to use it. You don't worry about someone messing it up. It just works the way people expect a TV to work. I can't tell you how many times I've been at someone else's house trying to figure out why the sound wasn't working. The amp wasn't on, the stereo wasn't set right, there are 15 remotes to choose from, or something was muted somewhere. That never happens with the Beam, ever. If the TV is on, the sound is there. This is for people who want to be done with their TV sound problem. For our house, that's why the Beam has lasted. It removed a daily annoyance and it never reintroduced it. If this was helpful, liking the video and subscribing really helps support what we're building here. And if you've got questions about this setup or how it works in real life, ask them in the comments. I read them and I'll answer what I can. That's it from our house. Until next time, keep it real.